Just like narcissist and lying, narcissist and cheating tend to go hand in hand, with multiple studies revealing that within the first year of a relationship with a narcissist, there is an 87% probability for infidelity to occur, increasing to 95% if this individual is a narcissistic psychopath. Furthermore, these studies show that 59% of the time, these were not one-time instances. Now, it's important to note that these studies were based off of data which focused on infidelity in terms of sexual encounters. But I would imagine that if this data included online affairs or emotional affairs, the numbers would be even more disturbing. Either way, though, an 87 to 95% probability are still some pretty shitty odds for those of us who have had the misfortune of one day finding ourselves facing the disheartening realization that what we are dealing with is one of these individuals. That unfortunately becomes an even crappier predicament to be in, as the telltale signs that are commonly noticed when one's partner is having an affair are about as good as useless when dealing with a narcissist due to the abnormal nature of the relationship and the ways to which narcissists think and behave being completely ass backwards to that of the average person, and thus making it harder for one to even recognize or pick up on that this is even happening. I personally, being part of the 87 to 95 percenters club, I want to go over a few things that you can look out for in terms of their behavior that not only differ from the average norm, but two will differ depending on whether or not this is a secret ongoing affair to that of a one-night stand or grooming a new supply in preparation for one's discard. So buckle your seatbelts and get ready for the wild ride that takes infidelity to a whole new dimension with the twisted spin that narcissists add to it. Beginning with why exactly narcissists are so inclined to cheat and have such a high probability of repeatedly cheating in the first place. Based off of what form of reward or validation they need fulfilled at any given moment is what drives their motivation and determines which direction they will go in. That to whether they are out seeking a secret affair, a one-night stand, or someone to groom as a new source of supply, as the reward and validation they get from each vary and serve a different purpose for the narcissist, and can be triggered about by things from as shallow as boredom or just wanting a boost in their ego to having a sex addiction, recognizing that you likely have figured them out and therefore need a replacement, to having their delusional sense of superiority challenged or any other kind of narcissistic injury, all the way down to there's no fucking reason at all outside of they just felt like it and see themselves as being entitled to whatever they want, and that's what they wanted. The most important thing to remember is that their cheating has nothing to do with you personally. And the worst thing that you can do is drive yourself bonkers trying to come up with some explanation to make sense of it in terms of humanizing their behaviors and or thinking that there's some solution that you can come up with to keep them from wanting or desiring to go outside of the relationship to get sex or be sexually aroused, because you won't and you can't. It is impossible. Why? Because their rendezvous between the sheets have nothing to do with you personally at all. Period. Capiche? With the two biggest culprits that make this inevitably to repeatedly happen, and why that there is nothing you can do to stop it or that you did to cause it, being one, due to their lack of empathy, allowing them to think of themselves and their needs only, and have no sense of guilt, sadness, or remorse for betraying anyone. Not because they don't know what they're doing is wrong, but because they simply do not care. And for two, their lack of object constancy makes it so that if you are literally not within their physical sight, then the thought of you won't even cross over the threshold of their mind. And it's in the combination of these two that makes them incapable of bonding with anyone. It's what gives them their black and white mentality way of thinking, and why they view others as merely objects that they can put in a box and pull out to service their needs. And once that's done, back in the box you go till the next time your services are required. Now, wad that all up into a ball, and what you've got is the perfect scenario for leading a double life, which honestly, more often than not, isn't just a double, but triple, quadruple, and I'm going to go ahead and stop at 4, as I do not want to be the cause of anybody choking on their vomit from throwing up in their mouth, as believe you me, I've nearly choked on myself a time or two. Because it is nauseatingly painful and almost unfathomable to even grasp. And that right there, with our having empathy and object constancy, we not only recognize others as individuals with feelings and think about how our actions or inactions will affect others' feelings and lives as well as our own, which is why we can't fathom or imagine how anyone would find pleasure in deliberately hurting others, especially not their own spouses, children, parents, siblings, or friends. And for 2, that someone who seems so wonderful and loving, someone so compatible to you, sharing the same likes, dislikes, values, and beliefs, it's as if you stumbled upon your soulmate. Would you ever imagine for them to be doing the very same thing, feeding the same empty promises of forever to another at the exact same time? And narcissists use this to their advantage, turning your empathy into a weapon against you from day one to the discard, through their mind games, manipulation, and hot and cold treatments that will enhance your self-doubt, create confusion, and decreases your chances of picking up on all of their antics. And due to their being consistently inconsistent, can pretty much chuck most of the common telltale signs of infidelity right on out the window, as the brunt of them stem from one recognizing a shift in their partner's baseline behavior, be that of their communication style, how they respond to questions, the level of affection they display on a normal basis, behaviors with their phones, passwords, finances, etc. But with a narcissist, their inconsistencies are the norm and gives you nothing to detect they're going astray from, being extremely guarded with all of their personal information and extremely secretive with access to accounts, their phones, devices, and many cases maintain sole control over their finances as well as yours. Nor can you sense from their nonverbal cues that we all exhibit in our own unique way without even realizing completely, if at all, that we do, because it's unnatural and uncomfortable when we lie. But with a narcissist, being the habitual liars that they are, lack these nonverbal subtleties, having the ability to fabricate complete and total BS while looking you square in the eyeballs, because to them, lying is natural. So then, how exactly are you supposed to know? Well, ironically, the biggest telltale sign is within the blatantly obvious that we often overlook because it seems so audacious and ballsy that there's no way anybody would be so foolish, and as such, either dismiss it as unlikely or as an explanation for something else entirely. Like, for example, in any relationship that we have, at the beginning, we tend to put our best foot forward. Part of this is we put in extra effort as to how we look. This doesn't just go away because it's due to an affair. Narcissists go full throttle, balls to the wall. Within just a couple of weeks, they will have joined a gym, started tanning, bought an entire new wardrobe, down to their skivvies, their grooming habits far exceeding that of impressive, shaving areas that before now, you didn't even think they were aware they had hair growing in those areas, let alone shave them, and are questioning if perhaps maybe the salon has been paying them as a new protege to promote their services, as frequent as they are now getting trimmed, waxed, manicured, and pedicured up, without any previous mention of wanting to improve their health or that their clothes were getting tight and maybe they should consider exercising or joining a gym. Usually they're having an ongoing affair or while grooming a new supply for the final discard. But how they are interacting with you are going to be entirely different between the two, and often don't even recognize that this is happening with an ongoing affair, because remember, everything they do is intentional, and in this instance they do not want you to find out, as their intention has nothing to do with discard, and the reward and validation that they're getting from this type of cheating comes from within the power of their being the only person that harbors this information. That intoxicates them. They feel like they are on cloud nine. In these situations, you're perceiving this as like you're seeing the better side of them. Like all of these newfound improvements are for you and the relationship. But the one thing that you can pick up on when this occurs, it's likely going to be accompanied with something that's been added now that has become consistent within their routine that they never used to. That will likely signal your intuition as an alarm or alert that something is off. But due to this better side that we're seeing of them, we tend to dismiss it. And anytime that you question it, the way they go about gaslighting you with this is by playing it off lightly. You perceiving it as if they're taking it so lightly and joking about it, then there's no way that that's what's going on. Where it differs when they're grooming for a new supply, and you often see even more blatantly obvious, super in your face, talking the lipstick stain on their underwear obvious, receipts in their pockets from a dinner or a hotel. These situations, they want you to think that they're doing something, though they're never going to admit it. Now gaslighting you as into you're crazy and don't know what you're talking about when you provide them with this information. Because at this point, you're so trauma bonded and they have you frantically going after ways to try to fix this relationship, even though it's right in front of your face and your intuition's screaming that something is going on, is when we tend to go into this denial state of it happening. Is what they're accusing you of, because narcissists tell on themselves all the time. Anytime they use the word you, replace it with I, and that is likely what they are doing. The third is going to be a change in their sexual behaviors. And I'm not just talking about the frequency of sex, but their moves, their style, and their stamina. Beginning figuring out just exactly what does it for you and trying to fulfill your wildest, deepest, most unfulfilled sexual fantasies so that later they can, just like anything else, give and take, using it as a way to control you. During the discard phase, not only does the frequency slow down, but then when they do give, they're now using deliberately the moves of somebody else's fantasies on you, leaving you feeling like you just had sex with a total stranger to bring you down even more. Because in the discard phase, they want you to think that there's somebody else. As now being trauma bonded, they're brainwashing you into thinking that there's no way you're going to make it without them. This just makes you hold on even harder. And that fuels their ego. As far as their one-night stands go, likely we'll never know about them unless you catch them red-handed. Even still, they will behave just like they were singing the Shaggy song, "It Wasn't Me." Because though they don't care if they're hurting you by doing this, they only care how this is going to affect them. And if you catch them before they have got your smear campaign locked and loaded, and or a replacement in means of source of supply if you were to leave, that would, one, leave them with insufficient supply, and two, make it more likely for you to expose them. And so narcissists will do whatever they need to gaslight, lie, and cover up anything that they don't want you to know about. These people are masters at manipulation. But this type of betrayal, especially when it is repeated, is so damaging to one's psychological and overall well-being, not to mention the diseases that they can pass on to you. And it is not going to stop. Just like everything else they do, it is a repeated cycle. Disheartening as it sucks to have to admit that someone could do this to you. That is who they are. They do not think and behave like the average person. They don't. And trying to make sense of it in terms of humanizing the way that they do things simply doesn't work. But regardless, you are worth and deserve so much more than for someone to fundamentally betray you in the ways that these demonic, soul-sucking humanoids do. Anytime your intuition is telling you that something seems a little off or likely infidelity is occurring, listen to it. Because, as the study showed, 87 to 95% of the time, your intuition is going to be spot on. Because life is too short to deal with that kind of bullshit. You're worth and deserve so much more. Focus on you. Fuck the narcissist. Not in a fuck me, rather in a fuck off frame of context.